Welcome, Jeremy. So lovely to see you again. It's always a pleasure.
Awesome.
I was wondering if you could tell me a bit. I see you guys are doing some amazing stuff at PayStand. What's happening?
Yeah, so PayStand's been around for 4 years now. We're growing really well commercially on our core business, which is a B2B payment network. But we've also announced very recently something called a surety of service. And a surety of service is basically taking the scaled blockchain ledger and network that we've been using for quite a few years now and opening it up for other folks to use our infrastructure and spin up a blockchain that's really, really powerful for enterprise software companies in very few minutes. So.
Wow, that's really exciting. I was really buzzed when I saw all the tweets and stuff. So what do you think about Zuckerberg having all this extra power to create a currency or a token? Oh my gosh, there's been so much flack about it all over the world. Many countries feel like he's threatening them or encroaching on them. What's your idea? Do you think it's a positive or a negative thing?
Yeah. You know, it's always an interesting thing when new technology can get the president and the Congress talking about it, right? And so I would say that it's good for blockchain to be in this stage of evolution, which is to move from an infrastructure-focused stage to an application-focused stage. How do we get it to mass market? Yeah. And so I think it's good for companies like blockchain, like other large companies like Google, to start investing in the infrastructure. But I also want to continue to see blockchain stay a decentralized organization and decentralized infrastructure because it creates checks and balances. And so I think seeing companies invest there is good. It helps bring blockchain to scale. Yeah. But I also think that it's good for us to continue to see blockchain remain open the way the internet has remained open.
So that was my first initial concern and why I named this panel, Facebook Libra centralization, because I figure this guy can't create anything decentralized. From my perspective, it's all been about control and power and misuse of that since the beginning. So what's your opinion about that? Do you think it's safe for him to have this sort of power? And obviously, it's getting getting the blockchain and crypto into other people's minds and consciousness that might not have been there. But ultimately, would it be good for him to have this power?
Yeah, I mean, competition is good, right? And so I think, we want to see the internet and we want to see blockchain remain open, right? Yeah. But I'd say a great analogy is AOL was a company decades ago that helped bring the internet to the mass market. Yes. But AOL was not an open company, but it was an important step in the evolution of the internet. And so how do companies that are centralized help drive important steps for the evolution of blockchain? I think that's good. But I also think, like the internet, we want to see blockchain become a check and balance on organizations that have too much control, too much power. And that's one of the powers that blockchain can do, is help us decentralize and create checks and balances so we as a society can have more trust.
And so you think that he will have to be decentralized? Is that the summary of what you're saying?
Well, we'll see what Facebook ends up doing. If you read their white paper, there's a nod to the notion of decentralization. It's not there yet. My point more is to see them invest in blockchain in general and competition against the Facebooks of the world to drive open versus decentralized. I think open wins. Will Facebook remain open? Will Facebook become open? We'll see. I think that's just a footnote in a larger evolutionary change.
Okay. I've got the message. Thank you. That's really good. I'm wondering too, obviously it's going to help the general community, and I've been supporting it since 2008, but I know that it still is that outlier community, particularly when the bust happened last year. I mean, there was a big boom and people jumped on board who knew nothing and got really burnt investing. So I guess that's my concern too, is like, how do we bring this into the mainstream? How can we support it? And if Facebook does that, do you think there'll be a purpose of that, of bringing it into the mainstream so that it won't be this sense of outlier community?
Well, I don't think the blockchain needs Facebook, right? The blockchain has got enormous amount of growth already, right? And it is, many, many billions of dollars of enterprise value for a number of companies. And so one company is not going to change the trajectory of blockchain. The blockchain is already out of the box. It's already running. But, it's great to see more investment in the space. It's great to see more in the news cycle. It's great to see Congress and other folks debating the concepts. All of a sudden, you see Congress go, well, maybe Bitcoin's not that bad, right? When they're talking about Facebook, and so I think this kind of conversation is good.
Okay.
If you look back at the history, AOL is an important footnote, but it is not the internet.
Yeah.
So let's see what Facebook does.
I know when I see anyone with an AOL email address, I go, what the fuck? How old is that? Sorry. Anyway.
It's kind of a measure of your sort of tech capabilities, isn't it? Yeah. So.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming. I'm so looking forward to the panel. I think it'll be fabulous.
Awesome. Love the time with you, Pemo. It's always great.
Thanks, Jeremy.